Hey gang, I don't think I'm going to start doing music reviews as a regular thing, but I think I want to draw your attention to an artist who I greatly admire and who I've been following for must be about 20 years now, and I've continued to watch with fascination as he develops and explores new things and expands his identity as an artist. He's been doing so much wonderful work since the 1980s. He's been releasing stuff, and it's just incredible the way he continues to expand in a way that other musicians, he's about 60 now, and most artists in their 60s, I can't think of very few artists at that age that continue to do such interesting work. Maybe Brian Eno nowadays is another artist that I think of as pretty still doing kind of innovative things. But I made a list of the artists nowadays that not just musicians, but any type of artists who when they release something, I really want to explore it and see what it is that's going on in their minds right away. So here's the list I came up with. The graphic novelist Isabel Greenberg is probably the comics person I most admire right now. The novelist Thomas Pynchon, but really I feel like his best work is behind him, and maybe his last great work probably was Against the Day, and even that felt like it was something that he'd been working on for many decades. It's such a massive work. Alan Moore I still enjoy, but similar to Pynchon, I feel like a lot of his best work is probably behind him. And then the novelist probably I most admire nowadays is Mark Leyner, whose work I just devour when it comes out. I love his ideas and his sense of what a novel and what fiction can be. But among musicians, very few. I don't listen to as many musicians anymore because I tend to just listen to music that I'm trying to learn on piano. But there are some musicians who, when they have a new album, I do eagerly look for it. Probably Kendrick Lamar, Ariel Pink, Gonzales. But more than any of them, these artists, I would say the one that I most admire his sense of courageousness and honesty, and just forcing himself to constantly do new things, to recreate himself and look at new things that he can incorporate as an artist, I would say is Momus, who he has a YouTube channel, and I really recommend you check it out just to see how prolific and creative a person can be. The rate that he releases stuff is staggering, and he's just constantly releasing new material, and it's wonderful. But I don't think of him as just a musician. He writes books. He has a new memoir coming out in I think in June or so that I really want to check out. It's called Niche. He has quite a love of graphic design, and he does a lot of that, and his videos are quite wonderful too. I love his use of appropriating videos from other artists, or I think more than, I love filmmakers. I love Kurosawa, I love Renoir, but more than them, I think I learned from YouTubers nowadays, because there's just something about the no budget, low budget aesthetic and the ability to try different things. The more production, the more people working on a project, it tends to be more and more conservative. So these Hollywood blockbusters, their techniques are just so canned in a lot of ways. There's very little innovation, whereas I see these YouTubers nowadays, I learn so much more about what is possible in film and what just try things in film. There's no budget, so why not? And Momus is always doing that, so I look forward to his music, I look forward to his videos. With his latest 2020 album called Vivid, it's been getting some press as sort of a gimmick COVID-19 album, as if the coronavirus is the only notable thing about it. But I think, if/when we destroy coronavirus, there still will remain these plagues. If not physical plagues, we're always going to have mental plagues, emotional plagues, spiritual plagues of one sort or another. And that, I think, is what I get in this album, this Vivid album. I enjoyed this album because I had just listened to an audiobook of this collection of sort of essays called The Rest is Noise, in which, I forget the author's name, but he wrote about a lot of the innovations in 20th century music, the development, And things like Steve Reich, Philip Glass, that sense of minimalism is what Momus has been incorporating a lot in this album. That's not by any means all that it is. His previous album, Accordion, used a lot of accordion sounds, and we get some of that here, but it's just, it's sort of a launching pad. He's always taking and incorporating different things that I've never heard before. This idea of minimalism or algorithmic music that just kind of repeats may seem appropriate for this gray card era that we live in. I think what I get out of minimalism is that from this bland repetition, you can create new patterns that emerge out of that and transcend that. And for me, that's what Momus is as an artist, or what great artists do, is they'll take a form and then they'll break out of it a little and they'll do something new with it. And that's wonderfully here in this album. What I also enjoy from this process of how he quickly releases the album and makes these videos is he'll do a lot of self-examination and a little exegesis of what went into making the album and structuring each song. So it's he's his own biggest critic and self-examiner, and I'm hoping one day the world will catch up and realize his importance. Lyrically, even now, just in the month or two since he's released it, the sense of despair, the initial shock of going into these lockdowns is what I carry in from this album. It's like when it first happened, the shock upon humanity of this, we've never had something at this scale on the entire planet to affect so many people in such a quick, and it's something that we're still going to be experiencing the effects of for months, if not years or decades. And I listen to these songs now, and there is a sense of some despair, but there's also a sense of hope and the ability to how we can deal with this. What I always appreciate in a good artist is the sense of honesty and proximity to their sense of consciousness. I don't like these artists who put up these fake walls about how their identity is and what is really going on inside their heads. We don't ever get that. Momus, we always feel like he's completely honest, and yes, he'll put on some masks. He's always putting on masks, but I think he shows in these masks that there's something deeper at work behind all of our masks. I don't have too much to add about this work. I'm not really too incisive in my commentary, I'm sure, but I just want to point you out to this great artist. He's one of the most literate, poetic, and inspiring artists that I know, so please check him out, support him in any way you can. Check out his books, check out his music, and so on, and I think you will be very delighted with what you discover.